Hello, everyone. I'm here with Stephanie. She is one of the co-authors with me in the Change Book, edition number 22. And we're so excited to be sharing our stories with the world. And we wanted to come today to share a little piece of what that might look like or feel like for you when you read it. And so I want to just invite you, Stephanie, to share who you are, where you're from, and just a little bit about you.
Yeah, I'm just posting this to my page.
Perfect.
I've had that, because we're talking about the Change Book. Sheryl Crow's "A Change Would Do You Good." That's just been my kind of song to go with this book whenever I'm sharing about it. But yeah, like, hello everybody. Thank you for joining, whether you're live or in the replay. It's great to see you. Yeah, and thanks for having me on, Helen. We're just when it comes up to the change, I'm just excited to be sharing about it. It's a chapter in a book that means a lot to me. But this whole book is more than just a book. It's really like something that's great for elevating your brand, and it's also like a movement, really. Like, we're part of a community with people that are all change makers, and no pun intended, and just a group of people that are really like-minded and wanting to get our stories out in the world and help other people get their stories out in the world too.
Yeah, it's been really exciting to not only write this chapter from our hearts, like everybody's chapter that I've read in here is just like really, they share something very personal. And
Yeah.
I relate so much with stories, and so many people do, right? When they hear someone's story there, when they feel someone's story, it can elicit a change within them too. Even if they haven't experienced that same thing, they can likely relate to something in their life that was similar, or where they felt a similar thing, because we all are connected. We all have these universal beliefs and fears. And I know your chapter really speaks a lot about fear. Can you just share a little bit about that?
Yeah, well, yeah, my chapter is called From Weakness to Warrior, Rise Fearless and Claim Your Legacy. And, I really wrote it because I believe that within our supposed weaknesses lies our hidden strengths. Like, for example, I used to be very hyper introverted. You would not have caught me on an interview live on Facebook doing all the things I do now. There was once a time when I wouldn't even show anyone my writing or even say I was a writer. Like, there was a lot of fear around being seen, I guess. And like, yeah, that kind of comes down to that, being seen. And yeah, but my dream of writing and my dream of creating stories and like just being creative and doing that for a living, like that pushed through the fear. And yeah, in my chapter, I go into this a bit more, but also faith. I believe that at the end of our strength, where we might feel like, oh, we're too weak to carry on, like, I believe that's where God can take over and lend you supernatural strength to keep going.
Yeah, I love that so much. I remember very vividly my husband asking me recently, within the past year, I don't know where you get all your energy. And I just didn't even think about it. I just said, God.
Yeah.
Because it truly, yes, I create it. Yes, I make choices, but there is this spirit within me that is something supernatural than me, right? It's bigger than me. I know you say this in your chapter, but it's bigger than me. It's not about me. But it's also for me, right? And I was just sharing this before we hopped on. I'm a yoga teacher as well. And sometimes people will come to class and they're like, oh, there's just one of us, you don't need to stay and teach. And I'm like, this is as much for me as it is for you, right?
Yeah.
It's bigger than me, but it's also for me. And so I love that. And, as a nurse for 16 years and a life coach turned into a success coach for women entrepreneurs, this has just been an incredible journey. And I know from your history too, it's like all of the steps in our lives, in our stories and our journeys has like literally led us to this spot we are now, to writing this chapter, to creating what's next. Because there's a lot more. Like, this is only the beginning. As we were talking before, I was like, you're like, yeah, this is like just the first, this is like just the beginning. And that I feel that too. So
Yeah, the best is yet to come. Like, literally, like, even though, like, I mean, you still, like, not just you, but I'm saying this to myself as well, like, we get to be grateful for how far we've come. Cause like I was saying, looking back, like thinking like, I used to be so like hyper introverted, didn't really want to work with people, afraid to be seen. Like, I'm just grateful to God, like, just give it up to God, really, before like, for kind of pushing me, calling me into things that I wasn't comfortable with, to find that actually, oh, I actually like this. That's the kind of what I'm talking about in like From Weakness to Warrior, because where you think you have a weak spot, like like, and you're kind of cringy about it. You're like, I don't want to look there. I
Yeah.
guarantee you there's something to be found there that's going to lead to some massive growth. The more cringy, the more growth, I think.
I love that. And I actually referenced a part in Stephanie's book before we got on the call about her mom. You know, she was in not a great place, and she said, you know, my cry was answered through my mom calling an ambulance and having me taken to the hospital against my will. And that's
Yeah.
just like such a true testimony of there are hardships in this life and there are challenges, and you know, it has a purpose. And how can we allow that challenge, that space in our life, that against our will sort of energy at the time,
Mm-hmm.
you know, open our hearts to transform and transmute that energy of fear into joy, or even a little bit higher of an emotion, so that we can really experience and cherish our life as it is.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, like yeah, that moment you're talking about in there. Like I share this story like quite publicly, but it's like,
Mhm.
yeah, that was in the depths of like, you know, the when I was suffering in an eating disorder, and I like was like, I'm not going to any hospital. I'm not getting help. Like I just had like that's where kind of like the hyper independence. Like I've always been very independent, you know. And like you were saying before we got on, I was getting straight A's. I was all like, you know, all these scholarships, all these things. But underneath there was all this like turmoil and suffering with this eating disorder, you know, and
Mhm.
I wouldn't have gotten out of it without God and my mom, and I think God worked through my mom, because, you know, like it's not easy to come against your child who's like, I'm not having this.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'm grateful because I mean, I'm still here.
Yeah.
You know, there's been times in my life where I didn't want to be here, but God kept me alive, I believe, for I still don't even know the full picture. Like you'll never really know until the end, right? And even then, who knows? But you know, people have said that things I've told them or written or whatever have like inspired them, and it's like that's a gift into itself. And I'm not saying that in any kind of ego way. Like I said, it's not really me writing this stuff. It's
Mhm.
God. It's like spirit. It's creativity, and it's like I'm just the vessel for it all. And this vessel would not be here without the help of other people. And you know, like getting into like being an entrepreneur and really going for it with my writing and everything, that wouldn't have happened if I would have given up then, like I wanted to. You know, if I had it my way, I wouldn't be here. So it's like kind of crazy. So, you know, and the more you go along, like for me anyway, the more I've gone along, especially in my faith walk, the more like it's like God is for you, but he's also with you. Like I went to this incredible business summit where one of the things I walked away with like God is my partner in this
Mm.
life, you know, like he's here with me. You know, it's a co-author. We were co-authors with God.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. And, you know, whether whoever's listening, you know, believes in God or spirituality or energy or whatever it is, there is a power that is outside of us. And it's really beautiful to open your heart to receive and connect. My story talks about my mother who passed away when I was 4, giving me a gift a few years ago. And it is such a beautiful, heartfelt story. And recently I honored her. Um, I was the same age as she was to the day,
Oh, okay.
last month in November. And so I decided to honor her that day. And I went and I sat by her grave and I talked to her, and I, you know, and I know I can do this every day, and I do, but this was special and I wanted to honor it. And I started writing, and she wrote to me and wrote through me. And I read it to my husband that night, and he said, it sounds like she's helping you write a book. Right. And
Oh,
so,
there you go. Yeah.
and truly, this is just the first publication that's going to happen for me. And I'm so excited about it. But yeah, it's pausing to listen, to feel that inspiration. Because when you just try to do it all alone, it feels overwhelming, it feels heavy. And so allowing yourself to recognize and receive and know that you are a gift and these things are available to you, and this inspiration and this energy and this influence and wealth and abundance is available to you, is really the first step to open it up.
Yeah, yeah, and like receiving, that was a big thing for me. And I think like you know, you work with a lot of women, right? So I imagine like any women and men, but I find women have a hard time receiving.
Uh-huh.
They're so
They're
used to
different.
being the givers and the nurturers, and like yeah, and it's like it's a strength to be able to receive, actually, you know, especially from like God, source, energy, all of that. Like it's there for you, but you got to let it in, it's not, it's not going to knock on a door that's not answering. Right. So
Absolutely. And you talk a lot about that a lot in your chapter, about something Stephanie said in her chapters, letting go versus surrender. And again, allowing that to transform and transmute. And I help clients with that every day in talk coaching and in hypnotherapy. And it's just a beautiful journey. So Stephanie, I'd love to know, for anyone feeling stuck right now, what is one practical first step you would suggest for beginning their journey of self-discovery?
Yeah, actually, this is a good time. Before we got on, actually, I went for a bike ride. I live by a really awesome park in here in Vancouver, and I actually stopped near a tree that had fallen over, and I was seeing all its roots. And I made a little story about, well, I haven't posted it actually. I'm going to post a story about this, but getting grounded really came to me today, because I'm a very imaginative person. I love creativity. I can be in my head very easily, and it's awesome. It's not awesome sometimes, but it used to be real bad, but now it's pretty awesome up in here. But being grounded in where you are and really taking stock of okay, what's going on, what's going right, and focus on that. But if there's things you need to shift, face it. You got to accept when there's things you need to face. And it's often not as bad as you think. If there's something you're avoiding, feeling stuck and you're avoiding it, it's going to get worse if you don't look at it. So just facing it and being okay, it's not as bad probably as you thought. And even in just facing it and accepting that it's there, and even just asking, praying, however you want to do it. If you go and take action as well, but things will happen when you start to face these things. Possibilities will open up when you have the intention of, okay, this is happening. Maybe I'm stuck, but I choose to believe there's a way out. Even if it seems like there's no way, there's a way out. And I guarantee you, if you go forward with that energy and take action, don't just sit there waiting for it to happen, but things will happen almost like magic. It is like a divine kind of magic, I believe, that happens when you really face it and accept it and just move forward with the best intentions for yourselves and others.
I love that. And that is why for the past 8+ years, I have had a coach consistently, because they will help me, discover these things with myself. They will question me in a loving way. They will support and encourage me. And that's exactly what we do for the men.
Yeah. Coaches need coaches.
Yeah, coaches need coaches. And that supports us so much. We know the value in that. And it's so powerful to be able to draw that out of us so that we can continue to feel and heal and transform and transmute. And the word that's coming up for me recently is cherish. Right. And
that's that one. Yeah.
Form of love and appreciation. Right. My journey, self-discovery journey, really started with gratitude every single day. And not just what are 3 things I'm thankful for? No, sitting with it, intentional time, writing about it, challenging yourself to find new ways about things you're grateful for. And so cherish was the word that has come to me when I was thinking about my word for 2025. And my heart just bursts when I think about that word. So
yeah, we can combine them. Ground yourself in gratitude.
In gratitude. Yes. There's a program we just created. I love it.
Yeah, there you go.
This is what kids do all day, right? They think of new things to offer and share with the world. So Stephanie, it's been just such a joy talking with you today, connecting with you. Your chapter I love in the book, and everyone's going to want to read Stephanie's chapter along with mine when they pick up their book. Stephanie, how can people find you? How can people get their hands on a copy of your book?
Yeah. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, at Steph Brandolini is where I am on most of those. I'm also on TikTok. That's kind of where I like to make videos and then post them elsewhere. I also have my own website at stephaniebrandolini.com. I have links to the change and everything on there. And yeah, feel free to message me, if stuff that we talked about resonates. I do love to hear from people about that. And that's interesting because like I said, I used to be hyper introverted and wanting people to stay away from me. But now I'm message me, it's kind of interesting. But I know that there is in for you too, Helen, and for you guys watching, if you're feeling called to do something, write a book, build a business, do something more than what you're doing now, there's a reason for it. I believe it's because there's people out there that need you. That need what you're offering. So, reach out, do the thing, it doesn't hurt. It's just one step. And, I think most of us fear, and I'm talking to myself here, we fear rejection. It's a natural thing, but
Mhm.
rejection is also a gift from God too. So, if you're being
Yeah.
rejected, it's okay. You'll find your people. So,
Yeah.
reach out to either one of us. Like if you're watching this on my page, reach out to me and we can talk about things, or if you're watching this on Helen's page, reach out to her. And, if you guys are interested in about the change itself, because like I said, it's a movement and they have several, volumes. We're in volume 22, but they're working on the next one and they have more to come. It's the fastest growing self-development book in the world. So it's a great thing to be a part of. It's more than just a book. It's like a kind of like a living calling card, and you get to plug in with an awesome community and mastermind with some amazing entrepreneurs, coaches, and just like-minded people.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. And we'd love to connect with anyone who's watching or watching the replay. And yeah, being a part of this change book is really about the proximity to other men and women who are passionate about living their best lives. And it can feel overwhelming when you think, I'm going to write a book or I'm going to be a published author. But it just starts with asking. It just starts with getting curious. And so I just invite you today to be curious. If you are in the South Dakota area or state, I have 3 book signings coming up. So follow my page to check those out. And I will also post the link to order my book underneath of this live when we're done. And of course, if you have any questions for Stephanie and I, we're here. You can, I can feel the passion that's happening here, and we're here to serve and support others. So thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Have an awesome day. May the force of faith be with you.
I love it. Talk soon.